Welcome to The Explainer. Look, if you're a foreigner moving to or living in Spain, you already know the drill. The maze of Spanish bureaucracy is legendary. Figuring out exactly who can submit what and to which office, well, it can honestly feel like a full-time job. But don't worry, because today we're building a definitive decision guide. We're going to break down the framework established by the Secretariat of State for Migration's Instruction SEM 1 2024. And just to be clear, we are not doing a tedious step-by-step tutorial on how to fill out a specific form. Instead, we're zooming out. We're looking at the big picture to give you the exact clarity you need to navigate the system with total confidence. Okay, let's dive into this, because there's one absolute core question that every single expat in Spain asks when staring down a new stack of immigration paperwork. Do I have to take time off work, travel across town to an office, and stand in line myself? Or can I just have a lawyer, a gestor, or even a friend handle the whole shebang for me? Well, the answer is, it depends entirely on the specific procedure you're doing. You see, the Spanish immigration system treats your very first application wildly differently than it treats your renewals. We're going to break that down into 3 crystal clear paths. But before we map out those 3 paths, we've got to understand the legal definition of appearing in person in today's Spanish system. The general rule from the instruction is pretty straightforward. If you are the applicant and you are currently on Spanish territory, your obligation to appear personally can be satisfied in 2 ways. Obviously, you can physically go in person to the competent office, or you can file it electronically yourself using the government's official online platform known as Mercurio. Filing through Mercurio with your own digital certificate absolutely 100% counts as a personal appearance. Now, if you decide you want someone else to represent you instead of doing it yourself, there's a Latin phrase you need to anchor in your mind right now: apud acta. In Spanish administrative law, an apud acta empowerment is essentially how you officially register a representative to act on your behalf. And the best part, it's completely free of charge. You can do this physically in person, or you can do it electronically through the Electronic Registry of Empowerments, which goes by the acronym REAG. So keep this apud acta concept in your back pocket, because it is the golden ticket for our first procedural path. Right, let's hit path 1 in our triage guide, initial authorizations. We're talking about your very first time applying for a residence permit, a work permit, temporary residence as the family member of an EU citizen, or your initial study stay. Because this is your very first entry into the Spanish database, the government is incredibly strict about representation. If you want someone else to file these initial applications for you, a simple signed letter just won't cut it. The representation has to be formally evidenced. You need either a strict notarial power of attorney, meaning a public document, or a private one with a notarized signature, or you need that free apud acta registry empowerment we just talked about. Those are literally your only 2 options for having a representative on path 1. And this brilliantly illustrates how Spanish bureaucracy actually relaxes its grip once you're officially in the system. Path 2 covers things like modifications, extensions, and renewals of your residence or work permits. It also covers getting long-term EU residence, extending a study stay, or snagging permanent residence as an EU citizen's family member. For all of these procedures, you don't need a notary. You don't even need an apud acta. Simple representation is perfectly fine. Literally all your representative needs is the standard simple representative designation form filled out and signed. That's it. The bureaucratic hurdle just plummets for renewals. But pay very, very close attention here, because path 3 is where people make massive, critical mistakes. If you are trying to extend a short stay, meaning you're extending a tourist stay, whether you entered with a visa or without one, representation is strictly banned. Absolutely no representation is allowed. Personal appearance is mandatory. If you try to send your lawyer, your friend, or have someone upload it through the representative digital certificate, you will fail. Not showing up in person for a short stay extension is immediate grounds for inadmission. That means they will toss your application in the trash without even looking at the merits of your case. No exceptions. Now, of course, the law recognizes life is complicated, so there are a few special forms of representation outside those standard paths. For instance, there's employer legal representation, where your boss is legally submitting on your behalf. Then there's legal representation for minors, or persons with disabilities who need support, which naturally falls to a parent, guardian, or official support person. And crucially, there are accredited professionals. We're talking lawyers, labor relations graduates, and administrative agents. If you hire one of these pros, the system actually grants them a legal presumption of valid representation. But here's the catch for the professionals. Their filing is strictly and mandatorily electronic. They literally cannot walk your paperwork into a physical office. All right, so we know who can file, but where do the papers actually go? The primary channel for almost everything is that Mercurio platform. Initial authorizations, modifications, renewals, they should all go through Mercurio or physically to the competent Extranjería office. But what if a specific renewal or modification procedure isn't technically enabled on Mercurio yet? In that very specific backup scenario, you are allowed to use RegAge, which is part of the government's general Red SARN network. But remember, RegAge is strictly a backup channel for modifications and renewals. You can never use it for your first application. So the crucial point is this major warning. You cannot get creative with how you submit your very first application in Spain. The rules explicitly state that initial authorizations may only be filed in person at the competent Extranjería office or electronically via the Mercurio platform. If you try to file your initial application through a general public registry or through that REG backup channel, the administration will legally consider your application as not filed. In the eyes of the law, it's like it literally never happened. Okay, deep breath, let's relieve a little bit of stress here. What happens if you make a mistake? Maybe you missed a signature on the designation form, or your apud acta didn't link up properly in the system. Well, you have a lifeline. The system includes a process called subsanación, basically a cure period. If there's missing or insufficient proof of representation, you are granted exactly 10 days to fix it. They'll only throw out your application if you fail to cure the defect within those 10 days. And remember, as the interested party, you always maintain the absolute right to just show up and appear in person to fix the mess yourself. Now, what's really interesting about this right now is that we are navigating a massive legal transition. The instruction we've been breaking down, SEM 1/2024, came out back in February 2024. At the time, it was based on the old Royal Decree 557/2011. But that old decree was entirely repealed by the brand new immigration regulation RD 1155/2024, which officially enters into force on the 20th of May 2025. Now, don't panic. The rules of appearance and representation we just went through haven't vanished. They are now officially housed in Article 197 of that new RD 1155/2024. The practical framework, Mercurio, the notarial requirements, apud acta, the 10-day cure period, it essentially remains totally intact, but the underlying legal citations have shifted. Which brings us to a fascinating question to ponder as we look toward the future of Spanish immigration. With these rules now firmly enshrined in the modernized RD 1155/2024, are we actually entering a new digital era where representation becomes seamless and foreigner-friendly? Or will the sprawling Spanish bureaucracy find new, inventive ways to complicate these electronic registries and strict in-person mandates? It's something every single expat, digital nomad, and foreign worker in Spain is going to need to watch very, very closely as this new regulation takes root in May 2025. And finally, as we wrap up our explainer today, please remember what you're seeing right here. This is informational guidance, not legal advice. Always verify the official source and RD 1155/2024. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep your paperwork organized, make sure you use the right channels, and I will see you in the next explainer.
That was a quick overview. On our website you'll find step-by-step guides to many procedures, the Padrón, the health card, the NIE, the TIE, legalization, and more. The link is in the description. And if you get stuck, message our Telegram bot. We'll walk you through for free, step by step.